Welcome to TrainFuture, where ambition meets expertise. At TrainFuture, we believe in the transformative power of mentorship and training. In this podcast series, I interview leaders and experts from various fields. My topic for today is meetings. Meetings help people connect, voice their opinions, tackle problems, and create a shared understanding. There are some good meetings and bad meetings, but let's face it, not all meetings hit the mark. Some are productive and some are not. The solution is something that will be discussed in today's episode. My guest for today is the famous Dr. Stephen Rogelberg. Adam Grant has called him the world's leading expert on how to organize meetings. Thank you, Stephen, for joining us today.
It's my pleasure. Happy to be here.
My first question to you is, what made you focus on this very important topic of meetings?
Well, as an organizational psychologist, I'm really drawn to studying big problems at work, things that are really frustrating people, things that are opportunities where we can leverage science to help decrease the pain. And meetings are that perfect candidate, right? They're common, painful, and we need to change the status quo, right? We don't want to accept bad meetings as just the cost of doing business. So what really brought me to it was this idea that I could help, that I could be this positive force, especially because a world without meetings is actually much more problematic than our current state. Namely, we need meetings. Meetings are essential for communication, collaboration, cooperation, consensus decision-making. So the goal is to reduce wasted time in meetings, not to eliminate meetings.
Stephen, in certain cultures, participants do not speak up to maintain the hierarchy, while in others, there's a free exchange of information. Does this aspect lessen creativity and lead to a waste of time in meetings? What do you think about this?
Well, I won't say it's going to lead to a wasted time in meetings because there's different cultures approach things differently. But I will say that there is a strong linkage between inclusion, critical decision-making, constructive conflict resolution, and innovation and creativity. So if you gather people together and the manager is the only one that talks and no one else is really sharing, then no, you're hurting creativity. So I think, the goal is, even in managers who are part of cultures that tend to have a higher power distance, is for them at times to communicate, hey, for this, I need all your voices. And then even think about introducing a process that makes it easier for people to participate fully. So for example, we could switch to a writing process, right? We can have that meeting occur in silence where everyone's contributing their ideas to a shared document. That could even be created such that it's anonymous, so no one knows everyone's contributions. So the point being is that no matter where you are, you have the opportunity to change some of the options around the meetings to make sure that they still really work.
In your books, you have mentioned various surveys that have found workers indicating that most meetings are not productive. Like, too many meetings was the number one time waster at the offices. And status meetings, which are basically meetings for providing updates, as highly unproductive. What, according to you, is a good meeting and a bad meeting?
A good meeting is just one where you have a compelling purpose that requires engagement. You invite the right people, not too many people. You fully engage in the role of facilitator, right? So if the meeting features your voice, and only your voice is the leader, then people are gonna be like, well, geez, why didn't you just send an email? So you are facilitating, you're bringing out other voices, you're encouraging conflict, but conflict of ideas, not of people. And you're challenging, you're really focused and dialed in. As the meeting comes to an end, you have a proper ending. So you stop 5 minutes in and you say, hey, here's what we decided. Here's who's doing each one of these things. And here's what we haven't yet decided. And so there's a full ending. So basically, you're just very sensitive and thoughtful around the design of the meeting, how the meeting takes place, and then the end of the meeting.
Yeah, another thing is that COVID changed the world of meetings. I mean, people no longer are traveling a lot to attend meetings, but are connecting virtually.
Mm-hmm.
So, what, according to you, is the future of meetings in this age of AI?
Well, meetings. So first of all, meetings are not going away. Um, it is gathering is a fundamental human condition. So we're going to be gathering, and how we do it, though, will be more variable. And so we will have face to face, we will have virtual, we will have hybrid. Those will be the various tools. And within any of those tools, when you move to the hybrid or the virtual, that's where technology will keep providing various updates that we may or may not think are helpful. So for example, if we conduct a meeting in the metaverse, using avatars, well, that's still just a virtual meeting. And I don't think that's really going to fundamentally, it's not going to necessarily help the meeting at all. It's just a slight tweak to the modality. Just like there's companies that when they have a hybrid meeting, for those individuals who are attending remote, they can actually have an iPad for each of those people, and they can put them around the table so that they're, in a sense, more present, not marginalized. So there's a variety of things that technology can introduce to make the virtual and the hybrid feel more like the personalization that can happen in face to face. But ultimately, those three types of meetings will continue. It's just the proportion of time in each one of them will depend on the organization, right, where the employees are located. But and the good news is we've gotten better at virtual meetings, so we can carry them out much more effectively than we did before the pandemic.
Mm-hmm. Leaders also have been running meetings for a long time. Do you think it's time for leaders to allow young or junior people to run meetings while they step back and listen to new perspectives?
Well, they can still run a meeting and listen to new perspectives. Those aren't mutually exclusive, right? Because they can create a process to really elevate all voices, and they're uniquely positioned to do that. So that's not an either or. I certainly love the idea of sharing ownership of meetings with a whole host of employees, be it junior employees or senior employees. And so a manager doesn't have to own every agenda item. They can ask others to lead it. And it is a nice developmental opportunity for everyone. So what I would take from your question is that the best managers diversified their approach to meetings over time. And so I think the opportunity to, let a more junior employee run the meeting, more senior employee, have multiple junior employees, junior and a senior, I think that's totally fine. Mix it up. That's what people, that's one of the things that's so frustrating about meetings is that they're almost always the same. So a manager who's willing to change it up, it reflects really nicely on them.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And should companies focus on training employees on meeting etiquette to make meetings more productive?
For sure. If you have an activity at work that people are spending anywhere from 10 to 40 to 50% of their time in, companies need to build an infrastructure to support that type of engagement. And that involves training, but it also involves feedback mechanisms. So having content on engagement surveys around meetings, I think, is really important so that managers can get feedback, that they can set goals to do better. So we want to have training, we want to have feedback and accountability. We want to make sure that meetings are also part of our other talent systems. When you think about onboarding leaders, well, we should talk about meetings with them. We should talk about one-on-ones with them. Basically, as ironic as it sounds, we need to start having more meetings about meetings. And that's not crazy, right? In some regards, it's more crazy that we don't have a meeting about a meeting. If we are making this massive investment, it's kind of wacky that we don't talk about it more, and how we can, get the best return on that investment.
Yeah.
You think about meetings cost more to an organization than all of our IT. And yet we are constantly evaluating our IT and whether it's truly helping us. Well, we need to have that same orientation with meetings.
My last question to you today is, what is your advice to college students entering the job market soon?
It's a fun question, and there's a few things that come to mind. One is we live in a world of lots of distractions, and people's conscientiousness skills are a little bit wanting at the moment. So as a college student, if you are responding to emails quickly and efficiently, right, doing what you say, that level of conscientiousness can be a real differentiator. So recognize that you are constantly conveying a picture of who you are and your values. And so your responsiveness, your follow through is really critical. So I think those are really key differentiators. And then bigger picture, I think the advice I would have is experiment, try new things, then learn, reflect on them. So put yourself out there, try to grow, talk to as many people as you can, be curious, learn, enjoy the process. But the cool thing is that your generation, you're going to be living to 100. So take a little extra time to make sure that you are pursuing a path that can excite you. And it doesn't have to necessarily be a lifetime path, but just a starting point on a path.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, these have been really great insights, Stephen. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you.
My pleasure. Thank you for doing this. Have a great rest of your day.